Route 616, your home for all things Marvel main continuity. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 83 of Route 616. It's been a few weeks, but we are back. And by we, I mean I'm here and Bill's here.
And apparently the podcast lived longer than Dan's internet.
Apparently. I mean, we know he's old, but we didn't know, we didn't.
He's trying to get in touch with his youth by resorting back to carrier pigeon.
One day Methuselah will return, but until that day,
We're saving Spider-Man for that.
That would be perfect if
that would be hilarious if he just managed to time it when we came back to the Spider-Man.
The best part is we'll have no idea either because he's not here to hear what we're covering the next week.
No, exactly. He'll just show up one day and we're like, so guess what? We have this huge run of Spider-Man to cover today. Actually, I don't think there are any huge runs of Spider-Man coming up.
Anytime soon, I don't think so.
No, because we have like one more Ditko story. And then Romito mostly did single-parters when he started out.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks, but we are back. If you haven't been paying attention to the channel, there have been some changes. We mentioned this in our last recording that we did for a different series, but we now have thumbnails coming across all our different series that have started on the channel. So on the Here Comes the Pain mod series for TEW, we've got thumbnails now, and we also have thumbnails on the Pro Wrestling Sim series from the Extreme Revival mod in 2006. So that's pretty cool. We'll be getting some for the co-op run at some point, and yeah, pretty cool to have those going. And check those series out if you haven't yet. All pretty cool.
I mean, assuming you're into wrestling, I wouldn't recommend everyone who watches the comic podcast check it out. If you hate wrestling, it's not for you.
No, if you like wrestling and are watching this, then go check it out. There is quite a bit of crossover between wrestling and comics I found, so there's a decent
There is, but there's also some people that can't stand one that like the other, so...
Very true.
I don't want to send them off to something I already know they're going to hate. Although their tolerance is pretty high if they've been putting up with us this long.
Fair enough, yeah. Unless this just so happens to be your first episode, which is at number 83, which, hello there.
I mean, you picked a good one.
Yeah.
The stuff we're covering today is pretty good.
There's nothing bad this week. I can't say the same for next week, but we're not focused on that today.
I'm trying very hard to ignore that because I have to reread the stuff for that. And the worst thing is the reread, so I already know it's bad.
Yeah, exactly. It sucks when you gotta reread something. Which is Bill's whole journey so far with this podcast, because Bill's read this stuff years ago already, so...
Except for Fury. I'm actually getting first impressions on Sergeant Fury.
Which is the best part of having that, even if you don't love that title, but at least it's a new...
And if I can ever get out of Patsy Walker-induced purgatory, I will be rereading that, because I'm going to probably be powering through most of the Furies pretty fast at that point, since everything around them I've already read.
True. Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of trailers coming out for movies later in the year recently.
Good lord, I saw the new Venom trailer.
I did not watch
that. Holy shit, is it bad.
But that is one of the ones I was going to bring to attention. Venom: The Last Dance, which is already an interesting title to begin with.
The concept of the movie looks decent, but holy shit, does the execution look bad.
I mean, I still haven't watched the second one and people hated that, so I...
this one makes the second one look like high art based on that trailer.
Yeah, so interesting ground level to be at for that movie. I mean, I'll end up watching all of them eventually, but it's just a matter of...
I've pretty much resolved that I'm not going to watch it, and I loved the first Venom, but it looks so bad.
The other main trailer that came out was Alien Romulus, which I watched a few seconds of, then kind of just stopped because I wasn't really a good time to watch it, but never went back to it. But
I don't think I've seen that one.
They came out around the same time, so the Venom might have overshadowed it a little bit, but like The few seconds I saw of the Alien one, like, it looks really good in terms of the effects and stuff.
Well, the only reason I saw the Venom one was because I was at the dog shit new Bad Boys movie.
Well, there you go. That dog shit bad.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was terrible. Like, the movie had a good concept for the plot, but it was written by someone with the sense of humor of a 4-year-old and then filmed like the camera was strapped to a housefly that had been fed a hit of speed.
I forgot they had a new one of those.
Oh, continue to. There's literally one funny joke in the entire movie.
I'm not sure if I've even seen any of the originals. I might have seen one of them forever ago.
The second one was pretty good. I've never seen the first one. I didn't know the third one happened until I found out this one was number 4 after I'd seen it. And this one was terrible.
Nice. 50-50 on the Bad Boys run.
I mean, the only reason I went to it was because the Cineplex app said that the Fall Guy was playing, and it was not when I got there. But I had already gone, so I'm like, fuck it, I'll watch Bad Boys.
The Fall Guy is an interesting one.
That actually looks really fun.
It's a very good concept. If the execution is as well as it looked from the trailers and stuff.
Yeah, the trailer makes it look good.
Yeah. Then it could be really good. Its reception... Well, I don't know how it's actually been reviewed or anything, but I know it didn't do the best in terms of ticket sales or anything, so...
Nothing's done good in terms of ticket sales. That doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
I think we just have to accept that ticket sales aren't a good measure anymore because so many people wait for stuff to come out on streaming like 3 months later.
Yeah, I mean, the main stuff that draws is the superhero stuff, and even that's
way down.
Yeah, that's down compared to what it was, so...
And I don't mean just like bad superhero stuff. Even the good ones are way down.
I mean, I think Deadpool and Wolverine's out now, but I haven't...
I think it's still like a week or two away from release.
Okay.
It is out. It was playing. Never mind.
Oh.
I just didn't go to it because I don't trust Disney with that property.
Which that's the only superhero movie of the year from Marvel, I believe, because Captain America got pushed back a year.
Captain America actually looks good. I'm highly skeptical that Disney will let Deadpool be Deadpool.
Yeah. I think
because
next year...
I can see them getting really squirrely about the meta jokes. Like, they'd be alright with the raunchiness and the R-rated nature. But I can see them getting real squirrely about meta jokes if they're worried that they'll get sued over something.
I think we have... Next year, I think it's Captain America New World Order, or Brave New World, whatever the title is now, I don't remember.
I saw a teaser for that. I might actually go to it. It looks alright.
And then
looks better than anything that came out in the last phase.
I think it might be Thunderbolts is one of them coming.
That's a bold choice.
With an interesting lineup of characters for the movie.
But then so was Guardians of the Galaxy, and that one worked out great, so...
Yeah. And then I think there's a third one. Maybe it might be Fantastic Four. I don't... Or maybe I'm ahead on that one.
Probably won't be watching Fantastic Four.
That's probably the one I'm most intrigued in, although I think Captain America has the chance of being the best. Hopefully.
I'm interested to see what they do with it, but I don't like Fantastic Four that much in general, even though it's one of the best comics we're reading right now.
I am confirming if my list was right. Oh yeah, okay, there's a fourth apparently. Okay, so I mean, while we're here, so it is, the new title is Brave New World. It used to be called New World Order, so I was correcting myself correctly there, and that's coming in February. Originally, it was supposed to be May of this year, I remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm glad they changed that title, because New World Order carries a lot of baggage that I don't think they want to attach to the property.
Yeah, that's why they changed it. They realized it probably wasn't the best name.
I mean, it's a good name, but it's going to piss off 50% of their prospective audience. Oh, wait, Kathleen Kennedy's still in charge of Disney. That 50% of their audience is already going to be pissed off and not go to it, so it doesn't matter.
Then in May 2nd is the Fantastic Four movie, so I was on base there for that. Then July 25th is the Thunderbolts one, but the fourth and totally forgotten one on my part is Blade coming November 7th,
Oh, yeah.
which I totally forgot about.
Continuing the trend of bringing back 90s properties with the original cast, despite the fact that that cast is close to 60 now.
Well, I mean they brought a new guy to play Blade on.
Did they? I heard they were casting Wesley Snipes.
No, they were bringing Wesley Snipes in for Secret Wars was the rumor. That's what we were talking about on the last podcast.
Okay, then it's not so bad. I don't mind a new guy for Blade. I was worried, like, Wesley Snipes is a great actor. I don't want to see 60-year-old Wesley Snipes playing ageless vampire Blade.
Yeah. But the new Blade is... I mean, they announced the new Blade years ago, and it's the same guy who played Diamondback on Luke Cage to play the villain in the first season.
Oh, I like him.
He's really good. So yeah.
It's weird that they're casting him in another Marvel property.
Well, it's been long enough, and I mean, the Netflix stuff is fully connected now.
Technically MCU, so that's...
It is.
Like, it's not a case like Chris Evans playing the Human Torch in the Sony Fantastic Four and then Captain America.
Yeah.
This is another guy in the same universe played by the same person.
Oh yeah, I get you. I'm assuming their thought processes as well. They'll look different enough; it won't matter. Type deal, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm happy to see him again because I really liked him in Luke Cage. So I'd go watch him in Blade. Yeah. Actually, that makes me more interested.
Yeah, I feel like he partially just got sold on Blade. And yeah, that's all the
it's got to be better than the non-MCU Blade.
Fair enough. That's all the MCU.
Sunscreen. Yes, I am still mad. I've been mad since that movie came out about that.
That's all the MCU movies related, but there is hypothetically Beyond the Spider-Verse is supposed to come out, but there's not full confidence that's coming out because of...
Either way, it's going to be amazing.
Because of the artists and all that stuff going on with all the animation and blah, blah, blah. And it kind of got put on hold.
If they botched that one after the quality of the first two, I'll be shocked. I never put it past big studios to botch a successful property that they've been doing well. But I feel like Beyond the Spider-Verse is one of the least likely to have that happen.
Yeah. And since we're on the topic of the MCU in 2025, we might as well talk on the shows that are coming as well. Which they came out with a recent thing saying they were only going to do one a year, but there's still 2 next year. So I guess that
those are probably already finished, so they might as well pump them out and make some money on them.
Yeah. So the first one, and honestly the main one / the one people were most excited for, would be Daredevil Born Again, coming in March 2025.
I hope that's good.
I really hope that's good. I'm currently watching the 3rd season of the original, continuing off the canceled Netflix series, of course, after the character's return from She-Hulk and appearance in the last Spider-Man movie and all this stuff. So, and they had thrown out the original script and completely restarted the project for the direction. So
I mean, they have to because too much stuff has happened from when Daredevil was running before to just use their old script.
Well, it's more exciting because, I mean, in the original script, they weren't even going to bring back, like, Foggy and Karen, which was a weird choice. So they're actually bringing back, like, all the cast now.
I mean, probably more historically accurate to large sections of Daredevil's life, but why would you not use incredibly popular characters in your show?
Well, especially with how well played they were by the actors.
Yeah.
Playing them. Then the second of the 2 shows is one I knew was coming, but I have also kind of forgotten about, is Ironheart. without a specific release month attached to it so far.
That'll probably be good. I like the character. I didn't like how they introduced her in Marvel because they rushed it, as they do.
I haven't even
But
seen the introduction of this character yet. So.
in comics, I'm talking about.
Ah.
I'm sure you've seen that, haven't you?
Yeah, I have those issues.
Where she showed up in like 3 Iron Man issues and then all of a sudden, surprise, she's Iron Man.
Yeah, it was pretty rushed, but
She had a pretty steep uphill climb to actually get established as a character because they rushed it so bad. But she ended up being cool.
Yeah, I definitely like the character. It's like Bendis knew what he wanted to do, but wasn't given the time to do it, so he just got it in.
Oh yeah, it's because I think Tony temporarily dying was a decision made above Bendis, and so he had to all of a sudden rush it out because he was told Tony's dying in like 3 months after he had already like paced out when he was going to introduce her. He probably thought he had a year.
Good old Civil War 2. I mean, he's the one that also wrote Civil War 2, so.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he made all the executive decisions.
No, it doesn't, because editorial makes a lot of decisions nowadays, so.
Yeah, and I guarantee he would have introduced her earlier if he was planning Tony to die that fast.
Well, considering how well thought out most of his stuff is, probably, because he's a pretty long-term type of writer.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's all the MCU products. We just suddenly got on that tangent, and I just followed through with it. So that was fun.
It's probably my fault with wanting to rant about how bad the Venom trailer was.
Yeah.
They made the symbiote goofy.
I don't think there's any Sony projects coming out next year besides possibly Beyond the Spider-Verse, which is probably a good thing because they've all pretty much sucked. So.
Yeah, Sony hasn't really done a good non-Spider-Man product in a while.
Since the original Venom was the last one, and that was
I
still
wouldn't even call that great.
Well,
it was
I was
right.
gonna say it's not like it was great or anything. It was pretty much like passable. It's like, well, this could have been worse.
Yeah, it's not terrible. I like it because I really enjoyed Tom Hardy's performance in it, but it's an average movie at best.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of hard to hate on Tom Hardy, though. He commits pretty well to his role.
And they kept it somewhat grounded, which I think is what's killing the later Venom movies.
Probably.
They're trying to make the scope too big, and they realize people like the interaction between Venom and Eddie, so they ramped it up and ruined it because it's not funny anymore. It's like cartoony and over the top.
You're saying some studio heads or executives got the wrong message from something. That never happens.
Yeah, no, they totally didn't sit down a focus group of people who have no attachment to Venom and then take all the bad advice that they got from that and take it as gospel.
It's like what some...
I don't know if that happened, but that's happened enough on enough other movies that I suspect it's what happened.
Well, it's like how X-Men 97 came out and has been blow away good, but then there's a small group that are a little worried now that they'll get the wrong message and start revamping all these other nostalgia projects, but without the effort put in.
Yeah. Oh, they're definitely going to do that.
Which is very possible.
I mean, the fact that X-Men 97 is good is honestly kind of a miracle, because the comic it's based on is very much not good.
Well...
I say this as a massive X-Men fan, but I hated X-Men 97, the comic.
Yeah, I have a feeling they didn't carry a lot of that over.
No, but still, when you adapt the property and the property's bad, it's surprising that it works.
Yeah. Well, I think it's
because the comic was also supposed to capture the feeling of the old cartoon, so it's not like the people who were doing it were working on a completely different project than the TV show.
Yeah, from what I hear, it didn't fully succeed in that aspect.
I don't know. I only read 2 issues and I gave up on it because it was so terrible. I literally stopped pulling an X-Men property.
And that's from somebody who was pulling every single X-Men and Spider-Man comic at the time.
Yeah. I bought like 14 different products because Deadpool was in them.
Christ.
I gave up on X-Men.
If
Because of it.
Daredevil was in 14 different titles, that would be something.
Maybe when Frank Miller was writing him, but that's like the only time he's been popular.
Oh shit. Well, let us get a start on this week's comics because we've been going for about 20 minutes. So, for anybody, it's been a few weeks. So we're covering 4 Avengers titles today, then 2 Iron Mans, and then that will end us off for this week. And we're going to start today with Avengers number 26. This one is titled "The Force of the Wasp." We've got Stan Lee writing this bad boy, Don Heck on art, Frank Giacola on inks, a Jack Kirby Don Heck cover, Artie Simek on letters, January 1966 release date, and a 20-page story. And Bill will take us away for this first one.
And this is a notable issue because Hank comes back in it and is not the biggest dick.
Yeah, that's actually the most notable part here.
Yes. Anyway, Captain America shows everyone the new system for receiving secret messages, but Hawkeye doesn't pay attention. That first paragraph pretty much perfectly captures Hawkeye at this point.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on the ocean, Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne are doing research and spot the submariner heading for New York. For those of you who watched our last podcast, we talked about this in Submariner. It's part of that very bad Submariner story. The Wasp flies away to warn everyone that the Submariner may pose a threat. On the way, she is captured by Attuma. I also want to mention that since this story is, at least this is my headcanon, since this time the retelling is from Hank's perspective, everything was his idea.
Oh yeah, that's right. Which is probably why.
I think I'm
the
giving more credit
synopsis writer.
I think I'm giving more credit than it deserves, because I suspect they weren't going for some nuanced indication of that, but rather Stan just figured people would pay more attention if Hank did it.
Yeah.
And given that it was the 60s, he may very well have been right. Attuma braves that he has created a wave machine that will flood the whole surface of the world. Wasp manages to send a mayday to the Avengers. The Avengers go to help her without Hawkeye, who isn't present. Captain America, Quicksilver, and the Scarlet Witch battle Attuma's forces but are ultimately captured. Hawkeye returns to the mansion and tries to check his messages but can't remember how to work it because he wasn't paying attention like a jackass. He decides to use one of Tony Stark's inventions, the subliminal recall inducer, to remember. However, as he uses the machine, an unknown villain approaches him silently. And that succinct recap actually captures most of the key events in this comic.
Wow. Honestly, it was fine, really. It was
I
solid.
like this one. They've started to figure out how to use the strong personalities of the Avengers together well.
Yeah.
Like, Hawkeye's not paying attention, and he doesn't remember how to use the machine. But then he doesn't blame Captain America for him not remembering. He's like, "Oh, I was being a dumbass. This is my own fault."
Well, that's what they're actually not only like Hawkeye in this arc is actually really well written because he has these moments of reflection upon himself
Yeah,
that
he realizes he's being an idiot,
makes
but
it
he
all
can't
worth it.
help himself because he's kind of an idiot.
Yeah, and it also helps that Quicksilver isn't as much of a dick as he
Well,
was being,
Stan's
at
writing
least
quick. I
currently.
was just going to say that Stan's writing Pietro a lot better too, because his like hot-headedness and brassness is focused a lot more on protecting Wanda than just
Yeah,
general contrarianism. So it makes him more heroic.
yeah.
Because that was the problem before. Neither Quicksilver or Hawkeye really felt like heroes. They were just assholes who happened to be on the right side of things.
Honestly, I can see why, and this last little bit between this arc and some of the like the 5 or so issues before me, I kind of get after those first few issues, I kind of get why people finally look back on this team and say
Yeah,
that it's better than the original Avengers.
I mean, it's more interesting than the original Avengers because they were so bland and they couldn't upset the status quo of their books. But I still consider the stretch from the start of the new team to this issue to be one of the weakest sections of Avengers I've read.
Well, and that's
Like,
fair.
for enjoyment value, the stories are objectively better than some of the other Avengers stories, but they're not super enjoyable to read because the characters are so unlikable.
Yeah. Fair enough. But yeah, I mean, I gave that one a 3. That's
I
what
also
landed
gave it
on.
a 3.
Which kind of, I wasn't sure if these Avengers were going to be that good, but they were pretty solid.
I mean, with the site we use, anything between above about 2.75 is probably going to be good because you always get some people that don't like it and vote it down. But at that point, the majority of people thought it was at least a 3.
Yeah. So with that, we shall move forward to issue 27 of Avengers, which is titled 4 Against the Flood Tide. We've got the exact same team here, and this is from February 1966. 20-page story, and I will take this one. Strap in. And by that I mean don't, because this is a fucking quick synopsis here.
Yeah, I think you got the same length as mine.
Hawkeye remembers how to work the message machine, but is attacked by the Beetle before he gets a chance to use it. You heard that right? It's the Beetle.
And surprisingly, he's not terrible. I mean, he is terrible, but the comic using him isn't.
He's terrible in this one, but is redeemed later in the arc, is what I would say.
I mean, I actually liked him in this one, too, because Hawkeye beats him in under a page.
Well,
by
yeah,
himself.
He gets completely jobbed, dude.
Which is why I kind of liked him, because the Beetle does kind of suck, and they acknowledge that.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, I don't know. He's actually been kind of a credible, semi-credible threat at this point, so it's a pretty big tonal shift for
I
the
don't
character.
know, I never took him serious into Spider-Man's either, so I was fine with him getting jobbed on the page.
Fair enough. He also the artist Don Heck does not know how to draw a good Beetle, by the way. I'll throw that out there as well.
I'll agree with that. Don Heck really can't draw Beetle.
He defeats the Beetle, reads the message, and sets off for help. After locating a beaten Quicksilver, they help defeat Attuma. Captain America sabotages Attuma's controls, and the base collides with his wave machine, destroying it. They return to find the Beetle missing and an important message on the computer involving the Wasp. Well, that definitely, I mean, that gives you a synopsis of it for sure, but it definitely skips over a ton of details on how we got there, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm alright with the synopsis skipping a lot of those details because,
to be fair,
these issues are a lot of just conversation.
To be fair, we also aren't trying to do a page-by-page recap or anything, because you should be able to go in and enjoy in some cases, the comics for yourselves.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm getting at. Like, we don't need to recap every discussion they have. It's good. Like, they do a lot of good character work here. But it's 80% a fight with Attuma. There's another character that's somewhat redeemed by this arc because he was actually good here.
Well, I want to touch on that. Attuma's actually really good in this arc, really well written, and for the main thing I think we're missing from these quick synopses is the nuances of Attuma's character here that make this pretty good, because we go from what happened? I think Attuma defeats them all because they're underwater, and then Cap plays into his ego and tricks him into letting them all get released so they can fight again or whatever, and that was all.
Yeah, Cap talks a lot of shit about it because Attuma beats them all easily underwater.
Yeah.
And then Cap talks a lot of shit about how he's so tough that he needed to flood the room to have an advantage over them.
And Attuma's men say something on the side as well, and it's a pretty good. It's perfect for Attuma's character, is what I thought.
Yeah, And Attuma really benefits as well from this not being a Submariner comic. And now that's not a direct dig at Submariner not being very good right now, although it isn't. It's the fact that Submariner has like 3 or 4 different Atlantean warriors of some description that are antagonistic towards him, because there's Attuma, there's Krang, there's Byra, and I think there's one other.
And on top of that, literally in the pages of Submariner right now is Crane.
Yeah, and it's, but the thing is, they all kind of blur together. It's just, all right, this is the guy of the week trying to take over Atlantis. They should have really focused more on one of them for Submariner instead of having like 3. I mean, sure, they're different. Krang was an actual soldier who became an antagonist. Attuma's like a barbarian warlord. And Byra was like a former prince of Atlantis who's jealous that Namor became the prince of Atlantis instead of him. But in practice, they're all just Atlantean who has some sort of underwater machine plans to take over Atlantis.
Yeah. Exactly. Yet again, a number 3 from me.
Yeah, same here. I gave this one a 3 as well.
The first like this one really picks up in like the second half. The first half of this one's a little weak, but it picks up and it's pretty good.
I thought it was really good Hawkeye characterization in the first half. I actually liked it too.
Well, this arc probably more than anybody is helpful for Hawkeye.
Yeah, I mean, Hawkeye actually becomes worse as an Avenger, but it gives him a lot more rounded character that's a lot more interesting to read about than just generic guy with bow.
Yeah. Exactly.
We start actually knowing something about Clint here.
Yeah. And on that note, let us move on to Avengers number 27, which is titled, if I had it open, I could tell you. This one's titled Among Us Walks to Goliath. Oh, yes.
the awkward transition issue.
The, of course, the least important thing about Hank returning here. So we have the exact same team. March 1966 release date, 20-page story. And Bill will take this one away.
Alright, this will be quick. HANK PYM calls the Avengers, telling them that he is Giant Man and that the Wasp is missing. The Wasp has been captured by the Collector and the Beetle. So yeah, several reasons why this should suck right out the get-go. Giant Man, the Collector, and the Beetle.
An all-star team, if you ask me.
Yeah, somehow it doesn't in spite of that. The Scarlet Witch presents Hank with a new costume she just happened to have been sewing in hopes that he might return to the team. Along with the new costume, he renames himself Goliath. The Avengers enter the Collector's lair and get separated and captured, but Goliath escapes and frees the other Avengers. They rescue the Wasp and force the Collector to escape with the Beetle using a time machine. Afterwards, however, when Goliath tries to shrink down to his normal size, he collapses and faints at 10 feet tall. Yeah, they had a whole thing about how Hank's shrinking and growing power worked now, in that he could do it mentally, but he could only stay at like 15 feet for less than 10 minutes, or he'd have problems. And then he stayed big for too long because he was worried about Jan, and don't worry about how any of that works because it's been thrown out the window at the end of this.
See, I think the problem here why Hank's having so much issues is he should have stuck to the growth pills.
Probably. Nothing can go wrong from eating an addictive chemical. Ask our man.
Oh, that's a pretty good deep cut there.
I'm actually reading Our Man in my DC read through, so
perfect.
And I hate him, so I like to make fun of him for sucking. They're not doing any of the clever addiction stuff that might actually make the character interesting. At this point, it's inevitably just that he's taken the pill like before he goes to the bad guy's headquarters or something. So then he gets there and he loses all his powers and he has to stall until he can take another one.
You don't get the good addiction stuff until like the 80s.
Yeah, when they actually start taking risks on DC's side.
Yeah, when DC was good. Not that they aren't now. That was just like that's probably DC's most popular period is the 80s.
Yeah, and to be fair, early DC, like Golden Age DC, is not as good as Golden Age Marvel. Batman's good, Superman's good, Flash is okay, and everything else is pretty bland.
And Bill's not a big Flash fan, so Flash being one of the top ones is not a good thing.
I don't hate Flash. I don't generally like speedsters.
Yeah.
I think it's a one-dimensional power, and it's not usually that interesting. But Flash is all right. The problem is they're still stuck in the Deus Ex Machina era of heroes where their superpowers let them do anything if they want.
Yeah. Well.
But
Old
enough
comics,
ranting
I
about
love
a
them.
different company's comics. This was actually a really good story despite us making fun of it.
Shockingly, with the lineup of characters in here. Also, first appearance of the Collector, and he's actually surprisingly well written here.
This is one of the better Collector appearances.
Although, well, since this is the first appearance, it's something that works, but with the knowledge, with the power of future knowledge, it is kind of strange to see the Collector so willing to use up his artifacts. But
Yeah.
it makes sense at this point,
I
and the
feel like
character isn't
Stan was
established.
kind of taking shots at some of the fans with the Collector. Either that or he just really predicted like nerd culture in the future if people weren't like that yet with the like because he just has heavy neckbeard energy here.
If Stan did, yeah, I mean, if he did that purposely, even at the time, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, I'm not sure if like that sort of like hardcore collector was a thing at that time, but it certainly resonated with like what nerds are like today. So I suspect it was a thing back then.
There's probably a section of it that was, but like, I mean, notoriously, it was a pretty casual hobby at the time, I would say.
Yeah, it might not have been directly comic book fans though, but there had to be
True.
hardcore nerds or something because they're like, I need the complete set, and so the obsessiveness.
Yeah.
That sounded like so many people I've seen in comic shops and like game shops.
Yeah, no, that I like, and that's perfect characterization for the Collector. He wanting the full set of Avengers.
Yeah, the fact that he like had heavy neckbeard energy here made him way better than in the future, where he still does the collecting thing, but they don't lean into that obsessiveness the same way.
Yeah.
And he's almost like like more of an investor than like the hardcore collector type of thing, and that's not as fun.
Well, I think part of that is the shift into him being this celestial being.
Yeah, they can't let him just be some like deranged basement goblin that wants all the superheroes in the collector set.
Yeah. But I mean, of course, it depends on who's writing too, because I think he still has times where he's kind of like that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I don't
Yeah.
really like the Celestials overall. I don't like the Stranger. I don't like the Collector.
Fair enough.
I mean, I'm not a big cosmic superhero fan overall. I think the only cosmic stuff I've really liked has been some of the cosmic lore.
Yeah, and I mean, some of those cosmic boars are classic stuff, so top of the line.
But like Silver Surfer doesn't really work for me. Early Guardians isn't terrible, but it's not great. They've been doing a big where I left off before I went back to fill in the non-superhero stuff from the golden, or from the silver and bronze, or golden and silver age, is they were doing a big cosmic arc with the Fantastic Four, and that was pretty weird and dumb.
The Fantastic Four has their periods where they're in the negative zone a lot, so
Oh no, that would probably
it's
be
not
more
even that
interesting.
yet.
They were like on a spaceship on like this space journey, and they like got on this robot ant that was going in circles, and the thing smashed something and broke it, so it started going. Or it was like an ant city war machine. The thing broke something, smashing it, and so it started going in circles. And everyone on the city was going to die because they couldn't get any food or so. And then they just left and went somewhere else. And just like they found a gray gargoyle on like some asteroid.
Huh.
And he was like leading a gang of space pirates and stuff. It was strange and really dumb.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, I guess back to topic a little bit. I ended up giving that one a 3 as well. So
Yes, this one was also a 3. It was a higher 3 though. Like this one was edging towards 4 levels.
I would say this was probably the best issue so far. So
Oh, easily. The rating supports that.
Although I will probably say that again after the next issue, to be fair. But you might not agree with that.
That's where you're a little bit of an outlier from the general, because this one was like a 3.16, and the next one's a 3.10.
Yeah. Fair. Although that's pretty close also.
Oh yeah, it's close. It's just I think the majority of people thought the last one was the best.
Oh yeah.
I actually agree with you on this one being better.
Oh, I didn't expect that. Well, cool.
No, I know. I had looked at the rating and I'm like, I guess we're kind of outliers.
Yeah, but let us be outliers, I guess, as we venture into Avengers number 29. This one titled This Power Unleashed. Again, the exact same team. Oh, not the exact same team. Sorry, Sam Rosen. We got Sam Rosen on the letters here instead of Artie Simic. 1966 April 1966, release date. 20-page story, and I will take this one away. And this is the longest synopsis of the day, I believe, so strap in.
Well, this one actually has, like, important events happening in it.
Yes.
As well as the return of my boy and your girl, I guess would be the term. Although I'm pretty sure Widow's technically too big to classify as that.
She would be technically, but I think we can give a little caveat of this version.
I think pre-Redhead Natasha counts.
Yeah, that's what we'll go with at least. The Avengers are unable to revive the fallen Goliath. The Wasp calls the team's usual doctor, Dr. Donald Blake. That was a tongue twister. But his answering service says he's out of town. Instead, Cap calls upon an army doctor whom he worked alongside during the war, Major Carlson. Meanwhile, the Black Widow has been brainwashed to once again be loyal to her communist masters. She is sent back to the States to destroy the Avengers. After examining Pym, Carlson informs the team that Goliath will recover, but that he must never attempt to shrink any further than his present 10-foot height. It doesn't really continue that, but as if he does, he will probably die. That's the gist of it. Frustrated and feeling like a freak, Goliath storms out in anger. The Black Widow enlists the aid of the Swordsman and Power Man to defeat the Avengers.
Not the good Power Man, if you're wondering.
No, the shitty one from issue 21 of the series. But yeah. At least we got Swordsman here. Well, back at Avengers Mansion, Cap informs Hawkeye that the Black Widow has been seen by S.H.I.E.L.D. agents alive and in the States. Hawkeye is elated, but Cap warns him that she has been brainwashed to be loyal to the Soviets. The Arch doesn't care, though, and he rushes off to find her.
He's thinking with little Clint.
Yeah, he sure is. Concerned, Cap asks, which is very on brand, by the way.
Oh,
Concerned,
yes. No, I said that is a good thing about this comic, because they're really starting to nail who Hawkeye actually is instead of just, what would be the most annoying thing he could do right now?
No, this comic genuinely handles Hawkeye brilliantly. I think that's part of the reason that this is my favorite one.
Yeah.
But yeah. Concerned, Cap asks the Wasp to tail Hawkeye secretly. The Wasp part of this issue is probably the stupidest part, but I
They
guess we'll
do
talk about.
Jan real dirty here.
They do Jan so dirty, but we'll talk about that in a second, I suppose. Hawkeye returns to the mansion that Natasha previously inhabited. He finds her there alone with the swordsman and Powerman. The two villains knock Hawkeye out. The Wasp, who flew off after Hawkeye so fast she neglected to arm herself with a stinger, has been
God
watching
damn it, Jan.
has been watching the proceedings, and she flies away to alert the rest of the Avengers. Unfortunately, she is waylaid by a sparrow and then has a crash landing that renders her unconscious as well.
I will give them a little bit of a defense on their treatment of Jan here. They do mention in the comic that it's because she hasn't been superheroing for a while. She's rusty. So she's making mistakes. I kind of wish they let Hank have a moment like that too, because it actually does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it's not even so much. I didn't have any issue with her forgetting her gear or anything. It's kind of the follow up that's the silly part to me. But
to getting knocked out after she gets away from the friggin' sparrow. Sucked.
That was a bit too far for me, but because realistically they could have just written it so she had been distracted by the sparrow so long that the villains still beat her there. Like they didn't need her to be knocked out.
And she's too late.
Yeah, they didn't need to.
They didn't have to bury her on the way.
Yeah. The swordsman infiltrates Avengers Mansion. In brackets, apparently they haven't updated any of the security measures since he was briefly a member.
It's funny because given the current lineup, I could totally see them doing it because the only one who would think of it would be Cap, and him figuring out how to use a computer.
The funny part is I actually didn't even think of that, so that is pretty funny. But also, the swordsman isn't alone. Power Man is in there as well. He's just in an opposite side. But as they're waiting to tackle Cap. He captures Captain America and takes him back to the Widow's lair. See, it doesn't even mention Power Man's involvement here at all. They take him on 2-on-1.
Yeah, that's how they actually capture him.
And Power Man's actually technically the one that incapacitates him because he uses Gorilla Monsoons to finish the bear hug.
I do like that they remembered that Mandarin had upgraded Swordsman's sword.
Yeah, because I didn't.
I did, but I like Swordsman.
I mean, once they said it, I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, that was a thing," but I wasn't actively thinking about it. However, Cap activates a communic crystal that alerts Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch to his predicament. As they track Cap's signal, the Wasp recovers and returns to the mansion to summon aid from Goliath. Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch are subdued, but Goliath and the Wasp arrive on the scene soon afterwards and turn the tide. The three villains flee the scene. Hawkeye has a chance to prevent their escape by shooting an arrow after them, but he doesn't, because, he's in love with Black Widow. He can't bring himself to harm Natasha. As the Avengers depart, Cap offhandedly states that things are back to normal. For Goliath, however, stuck at 10 feet tall, he can no longer lead a normal life. Womp womp.
Cap also lets Clint off the hook for not being willing to shoot at Natasha, which was another great bit of characterization because Steve knew enough about people to instantly know why Clint wasn't taking the shot.
Yeah.
And be a good enough leader to not make Clint feel worse about it than he already did.
As much as we've put over the characterization of Hawkeye, it was also a brilliant characterization of Captain America on the other side of the fence.
I think the reason these get better, like I always joke that it gets better when Hank rejoins the team. But what it really is this is the point where Stan really figured out the new personalities that they added to the team.
Yeah. Hank's troublesome new I forget the word I was looking for, but his troublesome new state he's in. But before that, he's been more caring and he's got a bit of a new personality as well that kind of meshes with the team pretty well.
Jen, unfortunately, has a new personality because they made her dumb as a fucking post.
Yeah, I don't know. That's probably
I
the
think
worst.
they fix her going forward. Like she gets a lot better. But Stan's not exactly a master of subtlety. And he was trying to do, she's not used to being a superhero anymore.
Yeah.
And so she's fucking up. But it just makes her look stupid because Stan's not good at doing it subtle.
Yeah.
And he clearly felt he couldn't do it with Hank because he really overvalues being huge. Like that's been a thing for a while that, oh well, Hank gets really big and strong, so he doesn't really need any tactics or so. He just is big and strong.
Yeah, exactly. And again, this was a number 3. This was, and like we've already stated, both of us, I suppose, this was our favorite one of the arc, I
Yeah,
thought.
I really enjoyed this one, and it made me want to read more Avengers, which was a rare feeling.
Yeah, I actually came out feeling the same way, which was shocking.
Yeah,
Especially when
it's one of
it's,
the only times when I've got to the end of a clump of Avengers and been like, wow, I wish there was more. Usually it's like, oh god, there's 4 Avengers in a row.
yeah. But anyways, let
Because,
us
like,
move.
Avengers tends not to be the worst comic we read. It's actually
No,
pretty middle of the road.
it's
But I'm never
just,
excited to read it. Like, if I see something that I know is bad and they've got some goofy shit advertised, I'm like, well, let's see how much of a train wreck this is. And if it's
well,
something good, I'm kind of excited to read it because it's going to be good. But Avengers is just, oh god, I've got to slog through 80 pages of Avengers to get to something else.
the Avengers thing too is that like it's one of the longer feeling comics to read. So,
Oh yes, it's pretty wordy, even by Silver Age standards.
but yeah. But we've gotten through that stretch of Avengers. I'm sure we'll get another one soon enough. But anyways, let's move forward into our Iron Mans of the day. Which Tales of Suspense number 79, A Story is the first one. This one's titled Disaster. And don't fall for that cover because it's a bit of a bait and switch. But anyways, this one's written by Stan Lee. We've got,
I actually wanted to address this cover because this
I
is
did
an
too,
early Marvel problem. They give you the payoff at the end of the issue
on the cover.
on the cover because this isn't a bait and switch. This happens.
Yeah,
It's the cliffhanger.
yeah. It's. I, I will say right now, I really like these Iron Mans we're about to discuss, and part of why I appreciate these Iron Mans more than most people on the site apparently is
I do
because I
too.
think is we get these Iron Mans are very have very early concepts of what a lot of comics would become in the future, like aspects of comics. We've got cliffhangers, we've got covers that aren't quite what they seem. We've got just the way the stories format in terms of in all the crossover and continuations across titles, which we'll see. It's very
There's
this
excellent
is very ahead of its
characterization of
time.
Namor in it.
Yeah,
Because,
this
spoiler, these 2 issues of Iron Man that we really like should not have happened if a reasonable person was involved. But instead, we get Namor, and he handles things exactly the way you expect Namor to handle them.
yeah,
Poorly.
yeah, exactly. It's technically very good characterization of a very annoying character.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, he doesn't have to be likable because he's the antagonist in these.
No, it does become a little problematic when he's got his own title and he's supposed to be the protagonist,
Yeah, that's one of the big reasons Namor's stories don't work.
which
But
is why
as an antagonist here, it's really good.
it's why he's always better in other people's titles because he's
Yeah,
better when he's the antagonist.
they don't have to try to make him likable while still being a massive dick.
Yeah. So this one was written by Stan Lee, art by Gene Colan, Jack Abel on inks, and I don't know if Abel was the issue here, but the art in these wasn't up to
It,
snuff.
I don't like throwing someone under the bus if I'm not super familiar with them. but it's got to be able, because Gene Colan has penciled a lot of stuff, and it usually looks pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, this wasn't terrible. I mean, the art in these Iron Mans is better than in the Submariner we'll talk about next week, but, like, yeah. Gene Colan, Jack Abel on the cover. It is a noticeable downgrade for Iron Man, though. If you've been reading Iron Man, seeing Don Heck's art and stuff, it's a noticeable downgrade.
Yeah, and this is a rough spot for Colan because he's kind of changing his style here too.
Yeah, and that's probably part of it, to be fair, but yeah. Letters by Artie Simic here. April 1966 release date, 12-page story, and Bill will take this one away.
Following his battle against the Mandarin and his creation Ultimo, Tony Stark returned to the States to find his factories closed, his accounts frozen, and a warrant issued for his arrest, since he refused to appear before a Senate committee to reveal the secrets of the Iron Man armor. And by refused, they mean was kidnapped by the Mandarin, but no one knows that.
Yeah.
Now penniless and still attempting to keep his Iron Man persona a secret, Stark has to find a place to change into his armor and recharge before his chest plate runs out of power and his heart is at risk of failing him once again. Despite wanting to keep her safe from the secret of Iron Man, Stark rushes in pain to Pepper Potts' apartment building just as his chest plate's power runs dangerously low. Changing to Iron Man so that the power supplied by the suit can temporarily recharge his chest plate, Stark finds Pepper isn't home and decides to try finding Happy Hogan next. Rushing across town to Happy's house, Iron Man passes an empty Avengers headquarters, only to find that Happy isn't home either. Low on battery and with nowhere else to go, Iron Man considers turning himself over to the authorities down by the harbor. Before he can make a decision, he is attacked by Warlord Krang in his flagship Atlantean sub with Lady Dorma in tow. Drawing back to the Submariner we read, where Krang decides to go to the surface.
Which, unfortunately, we have to keep reminding you about.
Yes, because that story is not finished yet. Hoping that he would win Dorma's heart by killing the hero with the weapons from his ship, Krang was instead thwarted by Lady Dorma, who refused to be a party to murder, and by attempting to take the controls, thus, I guess that Anne shouldn't be there, and thus gives Iron Man a chance to blast the sub and force it to resubmerge. With his armor damaged and his power supplies moments from failing, Iron Man realizes his only hope is to break into his own lab to recharge and repair himself. Crashing through the skylight, narrowly landing without injury, Iron Man is surprised by Prince Namor proclaiming that this is Iron Man's finished. Alright, so the summary missed one key feature. Namor is super pissy because Iron Man beat Krang. And Namor wanted to beat Krang.
Well, to be fair, they more touch on that in the next issue.
Oh, was it in the next issue? I thought it was in this one too.
Tony doesn't know why Submariner.
I thought they cut to Submariner and showed him getting pissed off, but maybe that's in the next issue.
No, he's literally only seen for the one panel at the end in this one.
Okay, then I take back my slander of the summary writer. It was clearly my faulty memory.
Yeah, because we get a cut while they're fighting in Namor's perspective in the next one, but they also kind of lay the foundations of that twist of why he's attacking. Yeah, to begin with, pretty early in the next one as well. To give you a hint, that's probably why.
Because unfortunately, due to our scheduling issues, it was like 3 weeks ago that I read these.
Yeah, Bill's allowed to have a bit of a faulty memory. But yeah, this is one of the times I actively disagree with the site because I think this is better than this. I think both of these are better than the site gives it credit for, and I give this a 4-star instead of a 3.
I also gave this 4.
Which shocks me because normally I'm the one that overrates stuff before you do.
Not always. It's like half the time there's stuff I love and you hated it or so. I think it just depends on which character.
I mean, it happens, but I feel like it's been a slightly more my way.
A bunch with Spider-Man that I was the one that was like, I give this a 4, and you're like, really? This was okay at best.
That's the main one that is the main one where you tend to go higher than I do, for sure. No, I thought this was genuinely really good. And I
Yeah,
don't know
I
why
think
this
they
is
did
rated
a
so low.
lot of stuff right with this one. I think Krang.
I mean,
People just didn't want to see Krang.
I know why this is rated so low because people in the comments were complaining about Crane's involvement and it doesn't make any sense and blah blah. It doesn't. The part about it that is kind of like really is the coincidence of it all, but it doesn't really have to make sense because
It's the
Crane is a
Silver Age.
character,
Coincidence is a necessary plot device.
but also Crane is a very he's a very just he's a nonsensical character to begin with. So in its own way, it does make sense. He
Yeah,
saw Iron Man there.
and
He's
in
like, of course he's gonna
Submariner, Krang
try.
did say he was going to New York.
Yeah, and to be fair, of course Crane's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna fucking show Dorma that I'm the best type deal and overcome Iron Man. Like it actually
Yeah,
makes
that's
sense
been
in its
his
own way.
method of trying to woo her for as long as he's been interested in her. I'm going to kill this hero that you like. Then you'll
Yeah.
love me.
So really, I think people are
It
just
was just people didn't want to read Krang.
people are just tired of Crane. Because otherwise,
And I can't blame them because when I saw him show up, I'm like, oh shit, Krang's here.
yeah, I get it, but I think they're. I think if you can take the subjective instead of it and look at it objectively, I think that
Yeah,
help.
I think the rest of the story did a lot of stuff really well.
Yeah, I mean the
I
desperate.
really liked Tony's desperation as he was a
Yeah,
wanted man.
that's brilliantly done early in the pages here.
I like how they managed to depower, like, without relying on coincidence. They managed to depower him enough that Krang is a threat, and Namor seems potentially overwhelming
Yeah,
without him having to fall on the normal crutch of, oh no, I've been fighting for 5 minutes, my heart is going to give out on me. Like, he actually has a reason to be low on power.
the continuity of Iron Man is also very strong at this time. Arguably one of the best titles for continuity, probably a top 3 for sure.
I think this is a fantastic time for Iron Man. And I actually really like the tie-in with Submariner. I mean, I don't like the Submariner story they're tying in, but just the fact that something that's happening in one book matters to another book
Yeah, it's a
is a
very
rare
big.
thing in the Golden Age
Well, it's a
or
very
in the
big.
Silver Age.
It's a very big step in forward for the process of crossovers, as well as is made note of at the end of the next one. This is the first time that one title directly crosses over into another, which
Yeah,
will.
and it makes the world feel lived in. Like, stuff that happens in one place matters. And
Yeah.
it's well done too, in that you don't need to have read Submariner to enjoy this.
No.
It makes sense if you're just reading Iron Man and, oh, here's Krang and he's being a dick and he's going to try to kill Tony, and then Namor shows up and he's mad.
If anything, this probably helps Submariner out a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely makes the story seem better. But it's because that's always been one of my complaints with crossovers. If they go too deep into weeds, you have to be reading both books to know what's happening. So if you only read one, it doesn't make any sense. But like here, you only have to read Iron Man. You could miss this whole fight in Submariner and it still works. And
That's something that kind of I think transitioned and changed when it came to like the 90s when there was fucking 6 different Spider-Man titles that you had to read all of them to get the full story. Like that's I think the 90s is when the crossover thing kind of changed to
yeah,
where it was more of a you should buy all of them and we're not going to help you as much to jump in.
yeah, because I definitely remember when I was buying physical comics getting pissed by that sometimes. Like, I remember I was collecting Amazing Spider-Man, and he crossed over with something. I can't remember what it was. But I started reading the next issue of Spider-Man numerically, and I just had no clue what was going on. because apparently it had crossed over with another title, but they didn't advertise it on the cover. You just had to like follow the comic collecting sites and notice.
Well, and you
So all
had
of
to
a
like
sudden I
follow
have this
specifically by release dates too, and of
Yeah, well, I was
everything.
doing that, but I wasn't buying the other title, and I didn't even know it was a crossover, or I would have bought the key issue.
Yeah.
But I'm just all of a sudden reading this story that makes no sense because I was supposed to have read the previous part in a different title, and they
Yeah.
don't say on the cover part 2. So there was no way to know if I wasn't going to actually research stuff. And
Yeah,
that just puts the casuals right off.
Yeah. I can't even really say. I mean, it's not as bad like that maybe as it was in the 90s, but it's also still like there is a lot of those big stories that it's like they really do want you to get them all, so it's not
Yeah.
as casual
And
friendly,
like
but
events don't bother me the same way because they'll put like in the back cover of the books all the titles that are in it. They'll tell you what part it is. It's when they do an unadvertised crossover. And just, oh yeah, that part happened in this book. What, you're not buying every one of our magazines?
yeah. Well, and to be fair to the event ones as well, when there's a title like when you were reading and like there was the Secret Wars and then there was the Civil War 2. Like no, most of those titles they would still continue stories that were going on in the title, while add bits that are kind
Yeah.
of event
Those ones annoyed me
relevant.
for a different reason, that sometimes they were just, they didn't need the tie-in.
No, sometimes the tie-in is kind of it's kind of very see-through that it's kind of them trying to get more eyes on the titles that probably
Yeah, I remember
aren't
reading in
selling to their standards.
yeah, I remember reading in Deadpool from Original Sin. It was the Original Sin tie-in,
Yeah.
and he like saw the orb guy for like one panel on one page down the street and mentioned it, and then went back to doing his own thing, and it got full tie-in status, and it's like, this doesn't need to be a tie-in. It's fine. You could put that in there without sticking the Original Sin branding on the cover and making people that weren't already buying that title buy it.
Yeah. Marvel Now was a special time. Let's go on to the last comic of the day, which is Iron Man. We both gave that a 4 pretty wild times here on the podcast. But the next one is Tales of Suspense number 80, A Story, which if this would load, I could tell you what the title is. Windfall of the Mighty. We've got Stan Lee writing, Gene Colan on art, Jack Gable on inks, Don Heck and Jack Kirby on the cover because it's the Captain America cover. We've got Artie Simic on letters, May 1966 release date, 12-page story, and I will take this one away. Finding himself a fugitive from the law, Iron Man was running low on power when he was attacked by Warlord Krang. After their battle, he broke into his own factory in order to effect repairs and recharge himself. However, he was interrupted by the arrival of the Submariner, whom had come to destroy the Golden Avenger. During their fight, Iron Man proves to be at a great disadvantage to the Atlantean monarch and locks himself in a lab in order to repair his. Well, he tricks Namor into throwing him
Yeah, he
into
gets Namor
the
to
lab,
throw him through the door, which is great. Because
which is a
Namor's
great
so
character
mad
moment.
that he's not thinking.
Yeah, well, and like Iron Man says, he's not necessarily used to those concepts of trickery either. And he gets the steel door closed so he can repair his damaged armor and recharge himself. When Namor tries to smash through the door, he reflects on why he is out to destroy Iron Man. How he was seeking to get revenge on Warlord Crane and Lady Dorma for their betrayals, and how Iron Man's intervention allowed them to get away from his wrath, and he had followed Iron Man to his factory to get revenge. Iron Man repairs his armor and opens the door to take on Namor, only to find that he is gone, which we know is because Namor needed to get his strength back by going underneath the water.
I did truly enjoy, I want to mention this while I'm thinking of it,
Sure.
that bit of Namor logic.
Yeah.
Oh
it's
no,
very,
they drove Krang away when I wanted to get my revenge. Instead of, chasing him,
Yeah.
I'm going to go fight this other guy and completely lose track of him.
It's very on point for the character, and I suppose the reason that he didn't chase after would be because they say in the pages how it's the fastest Atlantean ship or whatever, so he didn't bother.
I think that's too much thought for Namor. He was just big mad.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Namor would have done what he did no matter what.
He would have done it if Krang was trying to escape in that chariot pulled by seahorses that Aquaman has.
Oh my god. Oh, fuck, he's getting away. I better go kick Iron Man's ass.
Fucking Iron Man! Krang's just like, yeah.
He can easily get Krang. He's like,
he could easily get him, but he's like, fucking Iron Man!
Iron Man, you'll rue this day. Oh, that
I
was
love
fucking
Namor
funny.
in other people's books.
Oh, Namor is actually he's so well written in the Namor way here.
Yeah, he's just a monumental bell end, and it's great.
It's like we said, it works when it's not his own title because he's supposed
then
to be a
as soon as he needs to get wet, he just leaves.
Which is also hilarious.
He doesn't actually need to fight Iron Man. He was just doing it because he was mad and wanted to hit something. And so he's like, oh no, I'm getting kind of dry.
This literally becomes a comedy comic for a minute because Iron Man fucking busts that steel door down. They draw it so his head's going back.
Yeah, he's just like, where the hell's Namor? And Namor's just gone. Nothing. No explanation ever, even though he already knows Tony.
Yeah. It's generally one of the funniest, it's one of the funniest, page or two that I think that we've covered so far in this whole order. I was laughing in my head with that whole interaction. It's so good.
It really is.
I kind of shit on the art a little bit with the last one, but the art, the little details of the art here, the little details they do with the art makes it comedy gold. Just like I said, the head movement, the going back and forth, like where the fuck's Namor?
I went through all the trouble of getting a new suit of armor so I could fight you, and you're just gone.
Yeah. Oh. But don't worry, he'll be back. Iron Man repairs his armor and opens the door to take on Namor, only to find that he is gone, which we've talked about. The police, Pepper Potts, and Happy Hogan, which they joke about they hadn't forgotten about, arrive to find out what's happening. There, Iron Man tries to explain to the police that he was attacked by Submariner. Well, I guess he won't really be back in this one, but I'm thinking of the next part.
Yeah, if you're just reading Iron Man, you don't realize that he ever meets Namor again.
No, he just doesn't come back, which is even funnier.
Yeah.
From this standpoint, which is what you were getting at.
Yeah, you could just read the next Iron Man, and it's just like, wow, that was kind of anticlimactic. But...
Yeah. That's actually hilarious to think of it from that perspective of
someone just reading Iron Man.
Somebody is like, no, I'm not fucking reading Submariner.
Well, they don't tell you it's continued in Submariner.
I think they do have a little bubble at the end.
I thought the bubble was advertising the next Iron Man thing. Like, the next issue of Iron Man, but I don't remember.
No, because there's a bubble, because, like I said earlier, they make a note to mention that it's the first crossover between two titles. That's why I mentioned it, too. Because they say that themselves in the bubble. I think it's at the end of this when they mention that, unless it's at the start of Submariner.
It might be at the start of Submariner, because I don't remember that. I'm just checking now.
Anyways, I'll finish the last paragraph while you check. Meanwhile, Namor had fled because his strength was weakened from being on dry land, which I already said, and so he flew to the nearest source of water to replenish his strength. Now at peak strength, Namor once again charges off to get revenge on Iron Man, and this story will be concluded in Tales to Astonish number 82.
Oh, they do notice it. They do note it here.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, because we see Namor getting wet and coming back angry, and then it just ends.
Yeah, it leaves them on another cliffhanger, which they have been constantly doing in Iron Man for the last little bit.
Which is great. I love it when comics end on cliffhangers.
Well, you should want to pull your reader in for the next... It's kind of there's
Even
an
if you've
argument.
ended the story, like the arc conclusively, tease something for the next issue so they buy it.
Well, it's a big. It was one of the big. To cross over into one of our other hobbies, it's a big. It was a big part of what kept people watching wrestling during the 90s and 2000s because
Yeah,
they did cliffhangers a lot going into the next shows.
yeah. And don't pull an Incredible Hulk. Tune in next issue for Tyrannus.
Yeah, that's not.
That's not
That's
going to
not how
sell
you do it.
comics, even in the 60s.
Yeah, that's no, that's bad. Um, I gave this a 4 again. I genuinely really enjoyed reading this one. I thought it was a fun story. I thought everybody was written well. I thought this was a fun fight.
I didn't get to the 4 level for this one. I
If
like this one, but it's pretty forgettable in the greater scheme of things.
Yeah, well, I feel like if you look at this comic on your own, like you kind of alluded to too, like it's a little bit like when you know there's the next part coming, you're fine, but
They
looking at
do
this on its
tell you,
own, it
though,
is a
so
little
I'm not holding that
anticlimactic.
against it. I mean, I'd have to dock every multi-part story for not being a complete story then, and I'm not an editor in the early 70s.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
forget which one it was, but the 8-month period when all stories had to be concluded in the same issue, and Spider-Man's team just ignored it for the entire time.
That's hilarious.
But no, I'm not going to dock it because it's continued, because they did tell you it was continued and go read Namor.
Yeah.
It's just
And it gave some comedy gold, to be fair. So
it did. It was you actually made me like that more than I did when I actually read it, because I hadn't, like, it was funny, but I hadn't clicked on how ridiculous it was until we started describing it.
oh my god, oh, it was so good.
It is so good. I actually want to raise my rating, but I vowed not to change my ratings on rereading.
That's probably a good chunk of why I rated it a 4, because I just got such a kick out of that.
With that discussion, I now want to rate it 4. But I rated it 3 because I was just reading it. And I think when I read it, like, 5 years ago, the first time, and rated it, I didn't really pick up on the comedy because I was, like, reading it at a slow spot at work while, like, paying attention to what was going on in work, so it was only, like, half my attention. I didn't
Well,
really get the whole...
who knows how intentional it is, too.
Oh, it's intentional. They literally draw to, like, looking in all directions. I saw that panel when I was going.
I think it's intentional from the artist's point of view, for sure.
Stan might not have intended it, but the artist who lays out the framing of the story,
yeah,
definitely was going for comedy. You don't draw like 3 faces looking different direction to get the looking around like, what the hell? Where'd he go? You don't draw that if you're not going for comedy.
That's one of my favorite panels
It is a great panel.
We've had so far.
It actually
not even
plays
from a beautiful
into
art standpoint.
Yeah, it plays into like, deliberate comedy art is great, but it has to be used appropriately, because, and this is something that won't be covered on the podcast for years until we get to it, but one of the last issues of Captain America I read before it went back to being Jack Kirby and Terrible, which is the absolute last Captain America I read, but it was drawn by a comedy artist, and it was a Captain America story where he's on a plane and it gets hijacked, and he has to fight the hijackers, but, like, all his gear's in the luggage area.
Yeah.
And, like, he can't throw his shield because it'll smash a hole in the wall of the plane and stuff. And the story's fine. It's a decent Captain America, but it's drawn by a comedy artist.
Yeah, of course, the classic Captain America Air Force One.
Yeah, and he draws it like a comedy, with, like, the comedy swollen bruises on people when Captain America has hit them and stuff. And it absolutely ruined the comic, because it wasn't a funny comic, and it's drawn in this comedy style.
No,
and
that's a tonal shift.
Yeah, whereas here, the writing and the images fit together. Like, it makes sense. Tony's like, oh no, I sure hope Namor doesn't throw me into this room where all my armor is.
It is
And Namor's
goofy
like,
and Fury.
fuck you, and throws him in there. And then he changes his armor and kicks out. Namor's just gone. He's like, what the hell? Where'd he go?
It's
That's
the
definitely written to be comedy.
It's the goofiest fight we've had.
Oh, it's so good.
And I think it made it one of my favorites. It
is one of my favorites. That is so good. Especially because they've been like super serious with Iron Man for a while. So it needed some lightness.
And Iron Man's been serious, but it so perfectly fits both the characters as well, especially when Namor's involved. Like, it was so perfect.
Yeah, it fits, but it's a needed break of levity in that stretch of Iron Man because they've been dealing with Happy and the whole fight with the Soviets with Titanium Man and Tony being investigated by the government.
Yeah,
and like
Tony's penniless now and desperate, and
and Tony looking like he was killed and everyone thinking he was dead. Like, they've been hitting a lot of heavy stuff in Iron Man. So to have a lighter issue where he's just having a goofy fight with Namor works.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad I got these read today so we could record this episode, because by God did I enjoy those Iron Mans.
Oh, they're so good.
I generally think those Iron Mans are a little bit underappreciated, but I understand where people coming from, but
I'm not sure why the second one. I mean, they were probably thinking like I was, because I rated it 3.
Yeah.
Before I got talked around, but I think people weren't expecting the tonal shift. And so they were judging it like it was a serious fight. And as a serious fight, it sucks.
Oh, yeah.
But as a, like, let's make fun of these guys' personalities a bit. It works so well.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like, it's like the perfect kind of like, well, we're giving you Namor. I don't know. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah, I'm looking at the comments right now, and like people are mad about about Namor falling for the don't throw me into that room. So yeah, well, people are definitely not getting that it's intended to be funny.
Well, and
which it definitely was. It's drawn that way.
Well, besides that point of it even being funny, they give the logic behind why that could work, because Tony says he's not like, oh, he's from this whole different culture. Well, he doesn't wear it like that, but he's from this whole different culture of Atlantis. He probably doesn't know how these ways of trickery work.
Yeah, and I mean, but I definitely think it was deliberately funny, because I've seen enough Colin art. He doesn't draw panels like that panel of Iron Man looking around normally.
Yeah.
He's definitely doing that on purpose. Oh, well, and I just saw the creative team for the next issue. No wonder, or for the like Namor issue. No wonder you're complaining. That's a bad combo.
Well, and the when he's in Namor's arms getting ready to be thrown too is a pretty funny look as well. It's like, oh no, don't throw me over there.
Yeah, it's not Colin's normal art style, so he's definitely deliberately drawing up it comedically.
Yeah. But I think we've talked enough about these beautiful comics today. Shockingly good comics. I didn't expect them to be as good as they were. We have to discuss what we're covering in the next episode. I'm not going to say next week because I don't want to jinx it. But we have Tales to Astonish, number 78. Number 82, sorry, A story. I was looking ahead to the next one after. 82 A story to continue this a two-parter and finish it off. Getting Namor's side of things. Then we have 3 Hulks in a row with issues 80 through 82 B stories of Astonish. And then we have both parts of 83 with the A and B stories to finish the episode off. So yeah, it's all Namor and Hulk next time. So far, not so good from the ones I've read.
Once Hulk gets back to the surface, it gets pretty good. I've got
But
bad news for the next issue you have to read, though. That one is worse than the one you just read.
Oh, nice. I mean, it left off with the story still continuing, so I didn't think it was going to be any good.
Yeah, no, it is worse. But then the second part, like the boomerang battle from the issue we just read, is decent. And then 83, both parts are good.
That's good.
Oh, and then we start for the episode after, we start a really good Captain America arc.
Yeah, then we're on Captain America for most of the episode after.
Yeah, that's an important arc for Captain America.
Or is it most? No, it's only. Yeah, it is
It's
most.
3
It's
issues.
4 to 6.
I think are the actual
4.
arc. Oh, is the arc 4? I think
there's 4 in a row. Maybe it's only 3 of them that are
I think it's a 3-part arc, and then like a standalone story about World War II.
And then we finally get some Strange Tales again, some Shield Fury.
Yeah, we're in the part right now that I consider one of the best stretches of the Order that I've read, just because everything starts integrating. Like, it starts to feel like modern comics with crossovers and tie-ins and stuff flowing together pretty well.
Today felt very modern, especially with the Iron Mans, like I was talking about, with all the different aspects that felt very modern.
And I found that feeling continued for a while, because like you got a really good Cap arc that feels like a fairly modern story, and totally wasn't a lot of the inspiration for Avengers. And Captain America, actually the first Captain America too. For those who don't know, the Cosmic Cube is the Tesseract.
I did see a note in one of the Astonishes that I read recently, or one of the suspenses today. Yeah, it was from today's stuff. One of the Iron Man that saw in the notes something about the Cosmic Cube. So that this is shocking.
I don't think it's a spoiler. It's literally on the cover of the last issue we read. It's on the cover of the
last one. Yeah,
but that's the Tesseract.
Yeah, as anybody who has watched the movies would know.
I assume if people are serious enough about comics to watch a podcast about old comics, they've probably watched the mainline Avengers movies.
Yeah, probably. I would think. You're a real sicko if you're hearing that.
Yeah.
And haven't watched those movies.
I can get not watching every MCU movie, but if you haven't seen Avengers 1...
Yeah. Anyways, I think we'll wrap it up and get out of here for this time. Hopefully we can be a little more consistent going forward, but I don't want to jinx anything either, so we won't focus on that too long.
Hopefully work schedules stabilize.
Yeah, but anyways, if you're watching, please on YouTube, please subscribe, comment, even share if you'd like to. We're also available on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And if you're on Spotify, click that poll. Let us know what the least favorite comic we covered was, and let us know why you love the Beetle so much.
When we actually liked even the shitty villain we're using in the throwaway line at the end, you know it's good.
Yeah, there's not really a weak. Shockingly, there's not really a weak villain this time. It really is
maybe
the Beetle
Steel
that's probably
Doors
the weakest
for Iron Man.
Yeah. Shit. I mean, I guess you could throw Crane out there, but even he was used well for what he is.
He was only there for 2 pages, and he got his ass handed to him by a depowered Tony.
I guess before we leave here at the end, I did mean to shout out. I did like how Dormer fought back against Crane when they were in the ship there and stuff. That was a good
Dorma's actually really well written in this series.
Yeah.
She's probably the best thing about Namor right now.
Dorma is genuinely good.
Because her going along with Krang to save Namor made sense, and it just made Krang seem like more of an ass, that he realized he's lost, but he's like, wait, they haven't heard I've lost yet.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, we'll continue to get out of here. We'll see you next time. For whatever video comes next, either one of these or one of the wrestling series, which if you're a wrestling fan, like we said at the start, go check those out. But anyways, we'll see you all in the next one, and peace out.
Have a good one, everyone.